Hey everyone. So while we are on lockdown and unable to come to class, I thought I would give you just some acting tips to think about and perhaps use if you can. As I always say, everything that we do is not just meant to learn the technique or the art, but it is to get you working. Everything that we do at LaGuardia is meant so that you can utilize it in an audition. Okay, and when the audition happens, and I know they're hard to get good auditions, but when they happen, the main thing is you want to be prepared for it. You want to know how to handle it. So today, I think one of the most important things is to work on breaking down a scene when we get it. Acting, because I know we have some time off now. Acting is a muscle, and the less you use it, the more it atrophies. And it's just very important to kind of stay sharp in any way you can. When auditions come, you usually have between 1 and 3 days. I mean, that's the basic. You have between 1 and 3 days for the audition from when you get the material. From the auditions I've been getting and the auditions my sons have been getting, I would say that it's the next day. Like you get the information about the audition on Wednesday and the audition is on Thursday. So there's a few things you have to do in that time frame. Number one, I suggest that you definitely memorize your sides, memorize the scene. Some people say you shouldn't. I definitely feel you should. You can still hold the script in your hand, that's fine, but it should be memorized because there's a huge difference between if I'm doing a scene with somebody and it's like, you can't do this to me. Please, you cannot do this to me. And you can't do this to me. Please, you cannot do this to me. Because what happens is every time you look down at the script, there's a full disconnect. And I'm no longer seeing the performance, I'm seeing an actor reading. That's number one. Number two, when you're going to audition, you're showcasing yourself. You're saying, this is why you should choose me over everyone else. And the more professionally you present yourself, I feel the better overall impression you make. And going in memorized shows them that you work hard at this and that you're going to come on set memorized. Finally, memorization is the key to being able to fully live the role. Okay, every time you have to think about what the lines are, look down at the script, that pulls you out of the moment. And even in the audition process, you want to be in that moment. You want to be showing them how good you are. You understand? And the only way to let that character flow and let the lines flow is if they're memorized and you're not distracted by what do I have to say. You're just living in the moment. Okay, so you get the sides. First thing you do, obviously, is you read them. And then you should reread them. You should read them several times to just really fully get an understanding of what's going on. Okay? Are there nuances? Are there clues? Is there anything that is written in the description? Because more often than not, when you get sides or scenes for an audition, you don't get the full script. You don't have the full story. So you have to go in with the best choices you can make. So the first thing you have to do, like a detective, really analyze that script. What am I dealing with here? Okay. First, what is going on? What is happening in the scene? Let's say it's a girlfriend breaking up with her boyfriend. Okay. So that's the premise of what's happening in the scene. Then you have to start to break it down. And the first way to break down a script is by adding your own truth. Okay. How would I feel if? All right. So how would you feel if your boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife is breaking up with you? Is it shock? Is it anger? Is it being blindsided? Is it confusion? Is it being heartbroken? Is it feeling joy? Is it relief? So that is how to initially bring the truth of what you would feel. Then you have to actually look at the circumstances of the scene and the lines, which may contradict what you personally would feel. Okay? You do have to go along with what the character's feeling and experiencing, but then you add your own truth. So if you're like, well, damn, I'd be happy if my girlfriend broke up with me, but the character's heartbroken, you cannot bring your reality. You have to say, okay, but what if I was in love with somebody and then they're breaking up with me? That would hurt. Or taking your own private experience of sometime you were hurt and channeling that. But that is the way, basically, to get into what the character's thinking. Okay? But then you want to do more than that. You want to start asking yourself questions about the character. From what you can gather from him. If you have a complete film, if you have a complete TV script, a complete play, you get a lot more understanding of a character. But in the beginning, when you just have sides, you have to get as much from that character as possible. Okay? You also want to make sure that you're living in the moment. Okay? And living in the moment means truly listening. Now, at most auditions, the reader is going to be a casting director, casting associate, casting assistant. Every once in a while, they bring in actors who serve as readers. The number one rule I always teach my actors, do not expect the reader to be giving you emotions, good acting, truth, the same level that the character would be if you were actually in the movie or TV show. The reader's job is to feed you the lines. They're never going to be giving you what you need. Okay? So you have to be still, even if they're not giving you something great, in that moment, feeling honest, true feelings, really listening to what they're saying and responding and reacting. Okay, now it's very nerve-wracking to be in an audition, which is why so many good actors do badly at auditions, because it makes you very nervous. But what's very important is it's not you. You have to remember, it is not you saying those words. It is the character. It is not you auditioning. It is the character living a moment. And the more you get into that character's mind, the less the nerves will take over, and the more you are truly in that moment. Okay? So there's a few things you want to ask yourself. You always want to remember that it's not about, and this is why I preface listening so hard, it's not about your lines. Okay? Actors are very much worried about their lines. It is truly about what you're saying and what you're hearing. And then what you hear, you comprehend, and it causes a response, which is often your lines. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just a mental response where you don't have to say anything, but you can see that you're responding, you're reacting to something. If a woman says, I'm pregnant, there's a reaction there, whether there's a line or not. So that only comes by listening. You understand? So you always want to be thinking about something. If the camera catches you, and the camera catches everything, if the camera catches you just waiting to say your line, it's wrong. That's not living in the moment. It's fake. Nobody wants to hire fake. So you want to be really thinking at all times, even from the beginning, before your first line. When you go in an audition, they say, okay, slate your name, and you do. Right before it starts, you're in the character's frame of mind. Okay? You're not just waiting for the scene to start. You're not waiting to say your line or waiting for the reader to say their line. You're in the character's frame of mind. Okay? You're living as a real person. So there's something going on. There's always should be something going on in the actor's head. If anybody sees you just standing there reading your lines and then waiting to read your next line, that's horrible. You never want to do that, okay? You're always thinking. You're always listening. And trust me, as much as the camera picks up when you say your lines with feeling and truth, the camera picks up everything you don't say. And it is just as important. Something to remember, that every scene in a movie, like in real life, things can be very boring. But every scene in a movie or a TV show or a play is meant to move a story along. Okay, whether it's a 2-hour film, a 90-minute film, a 30-minute sitcom, an hour episodic, a 90-minute play, a 2-hour play, every scene is meant to move the story along. It's all based on stories, and each scene moves the story along. Okay, so each scene is trying to accomplish something. You're trying to get something across. You keep that in mind, that everything you do is trying to move the story along. Okay, so you want to know what your character is doing in that scene, what your character is thinking in that scene, and so on. Okay, when a scene starts, you can know what you think is going to happen, but you got to remember, only the actor knows what's going to happen. The character doesn't. The character has no idea. So you don't, when you're playing the character, you don't know the outcome. If somebody says, I'm not really your father, or I shot someone, the actor knows that because the actor's read the script and the actor knows the lines, but the character does not. So it's very, very important that you don't anticipate. You don't anticipate your lines. You don't anticipate anything. In a lot of auditions, people say their lines before the other person finishes theirs. That's called anticipation because you're ready to say it. Don't be ready to say anything. You have to be listening and let the thoughts come to you. It's very often that an actor reads lines because they're on the script. I know what I'm going to say because they're written here. But in life, we don't always know what we're going to say. Sometimes we have to think. And we have to be able to see that. Not in a fake way. We have to be able to see that. Okay? Now, granted, depending on your medium, you have more or less time to think. If you're auditioning for a play, you can actually take a moment and just stop and reflect and think. Television is a much, much faster medium. Television, 30-minute show is like 26 minutes with commercials and so on and so forth. You have to think, but it's got to be quicker. Everything with television is quicker. You also want to know what you feel, what the character feels about the other characters in the scene. Okay, it's really important because how you talk to someone, how you act with somebody, is a direct reflection of your relationship with them. The way you talk and react to a good friend is different than somebody you just met. The way you deal with a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife is different than somebody maybe you're trying to flirt with or somebody that's new to you. The way you talk to a parent is different than the way you talk to, a police officer. And then on top of that, your relationship with them. Okay? Do I like this person? Do I not like this person? Am I trying to get something from this person? Is this person lying to me? These are all things that have underlying meaning within each scene, but you have to know them. And this is all part of making choices, because casting directors, acting teachers, they always say, make strong choices. And I noticed a lot of actors don't know what that means. Knowing how you feel, knowing strongly how you feel about something is making a choice. Knowing how you feel about the character. Am I attracted to her? Can I not stand her? Is he somebody who's helped me in the past? Is he somebody who's trying to use me? Knowing what you feel and acting accordingly, those are choices. Knowing what your intention is, knowing how you're going to get that, those are choices. And those shine through a scene, as opposed to an actor who makes no choices, who's just reading lines to someone. If I'm just like, hey, how are you? You want to go get some coffee? That would imply that I feel nothing towards this person. But if I really like this person and I was doing it more like, hey, how are you? Do you want to get some coffee, more flirtatiously? Or if I know this person screwed me over and I'm just waiting for them to slip up, and I would say it in a more with an undertone of like, hey, how are you? You want to go get some coffee? There's something to it. Those are choices that you make in regard to what you feel about a character. Okay? So there's some basic things you want to remember. And again, with all these techniques or concepts, what have you, you never want to see them at play. Okay, it's like I'll equate it to using a self-defense technique. If you learn a self-defense technique against, say, like if someone pulls a gun on you, in the beginning, it's a slow breakdown. Okay, first thing I want to do is put my hands up so their comfort level is lower. You know, if I get defensive, they're going to get defensive. So I put my hands, leave me alone. You know, I'm sorry, don't shoot. And then that's a distraction to them. And then I move a certain way. I move my body out of the way. I grab their hand. All those things are broken down. But in real life, you cannot break anything down. It has to be immediate. It has to be second nature. It has to be without thought. Okay? The same with all these acting techniques. I can't, or when I say I, a director, a casting director, a producer, they can't see the process, as it were. They can't see the acting. They can't see the thought process. This all has to be there. It all has to be there. If you walk into a room and you happen to run into an ex-girlfriend who you left on really bad terms with, all that is established. What is she doing here? Am I embarrassed to see her? Am I mad to see her? Am I disgusted? Do I want to get out of there? All that's there because in real life, you've already got all that. You don't have to think about those things. That's what you bring into a scene. You've established who the character is, what the character's relationship is with the other person. If there is or is not. You know, you could be walking into a store and buying milk from somebody. You don't know them. They're a stranger. And that's fine, too. But these things have to be established. What you're feeling. All those things are established going in. Okay? And then what's very important is that you bring the scene to fruition and you bring truth and you bring an arc to it. Kind of a beginning, middle, and end, if that's applicable. And you want to just, I've never been a proponent of really breaking down scenes and writing every little note. I've seen actors with scripts and there's 1,000 notes on them. I feel that's a little hard because it's very hard to flow and be natural with so many intricate notes. But I think in preparation of an audition, there's just some general questions. And these are, questions that Strasberg and Stanislavski, but I'm going to try and break it down really quick. Number one is, who am I? Okay. And some of that you get with the script. Am I a police officer? Am I a father? Am I a criminal? What have you? And then what is not given, you fill in with your imagination. Okay. You use the script to garner what you can. And some scripts are easy. Some scripts you're like, wow, this person's a total idiot. And some scripts you're like, oh, this is a very kind person. So you can garner some information from a script, but what you can't, you try to fill in the blanks. Okay? So you want to know who your character is, what they're about, what type of person they are. It's important. It fills. You don't want to go in black and white to an audition. You want the character to be colored in. Where am I? These are all just things that are very helpful to know. Where are you? Are you, because you're going to act different if you're in public than if you're alone with somebody. If you're in church, you'll speak to someone differently than if you're in the street. You understand? So where you are can just help with your delivery. Okay? What time is it? And that can be literally like it's 2 p.m., but is it winter? Is it summer? Does that matter? Maybe not, but it could. It can't hurt you to try to understand as much about things as possible. When a lawyer goes to court, they've gone through so much detail, every aspect of a case, everything. So when they present their case, they're so well-rounded and know what they're talking about. Same when you're going in for an audition. You should be well-rounded. You should know who this person is that you're portraying. So that's where the what time is it, Now, obviously, if it's something in the 1950s or the 70s or, Victorian England, that will also definitely dictate how you present yourself. Your appearance, perhaps, the way you speak, and so on and so forth. So it's good to know. A lot of times you're never going to know. It's just an audition or something simple, and you're talking to somebody, And the what time is it? Almost irrelevant. But you just want to go on that checklist to make sure. You have to understand what your intention is. What do I want in the scene? You have to want something. You have to want something. Otherwise, why are you there? And it should be important to you. Because if it's not important to you, why are we watching? If you're just sitting there and you don't really want anything, why am I watching that? Why am I paying money to watch that? So you should know what the character wants and why it's important to them. And then you want to figure out, how am I going to get it? How am I going to get what I want? I want to borrow money. How am I going to get it? Now, you're limited by the lines, of course, but you should have a little bit of a breakdown. Am I going to try to sweet talk somebody? Am I going to try to manipulate somebody? Am I going to be honest with somebody? And if the first one doesn't work, can I try another? Can I try lying to them? And if that doesn't work, then maybe I'll be honest, and so on and so forth. But you want to know how you're going to get what you want. And very often there's obstacles, and the obstacles say, this is preventing me from getting what I want. And how do you deal with that? And again, you are a little bit constricted by the lines, but acting is about so much more than the lines. Okay, acting is about so much more than the lines. It's about knowing what you want, knowing what you feel, and trying to get what you want. And then you have to use the lines that are given to you verbatim. Because most actors say to me, can I change this? Can I change that? And I always tell you, the writer wrote these lines for the character to say. You are playing the character. You are not playing yourself. You're playing the character. So it's very important that you stick with the dialogue, but make the dialogue truthful. And if you say, oh, nobody talks like this, or can I just make it a little more natural by saying that? What about the character talks like that and make it more natural using the dialogue written? Because that's your job. A plumber doesn't say, this toilet's a little old. I wish I could use a different toilet. No, that's what you're there to do. That's your job. You work with what you have. By that same token, so do actors. So when you have an audition and you get sides in advance, you may only have them for a day. You may be busy that day. You may have work or family. You make the time. Go through all these things. Memorize it. Make it important. It is the most difficult business in the world. And everybody wants to do it. And there are hundreds of thousands of actors out there trying to do it. The last thing you want to do is half-ass it. I didn't really memorize it. I don't really know what's going on. But because I'm a talented actor, actress, and I say I want this, hopefully it'll be good enough. It's not good enough. You at your best often isn't good enough. See, there's a lot of things against you in an audition. Maybe they've already cast it. Maybe you're not tall enough. Maybe you're not short enough. Maybe you're not the right hair color, skin color. Those things are out of your control. Learning your script, learning your lines, going in there with strong choices and really kicking ass on that audition and doing what majority of the other actors are not, that is in your control. And there's no reason you cannot take all these steps to bring a natural, strong performance. Because even if you don't book this job, the casting director will remember you when you're good. That's a given. But they'll also remember you when you're bad. So hopefully I will be teaching again soon because I miss my classes. And I guess that's it. Thank you.